Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to be testing and comparing the Mavic 2 Pro with the Phantom 4 Pro. We'll see what the cameras are like, how they compare, and fly it around, have some fun. So I'm now going to compare how the two aircraft sound. I'll take them off one at a time and we can compare how they sound. I imagine they're going to be quite similar because they both have the low noise props, but one drone's propellers are a different size to the other, so it could make a difference. So here we go with the Phantom 4 Pro. So that's what the Pro sounds like. And now we'll try the Mavic 2. It's already a lot quieter, but yeah, the Mavic is significantly quieter than the Pro. And now we'll land, and then we'll take them both off. Okay, so now take off for both, and I'll have to do it one at a time, I've only got one hand. So that's the Mavic. That's the 4 Pro. And now we'll get them both in the air. There you go, that's how they sound. They're both detecting obstacles, which is not surprising seeing as they're so close. So I'm going to move them forwards a little bit. Again, tricky with one hand. Okay. So now, I'll try and point them at each other so you can see what they look like from each other's points of views. This one's a hard one. So here you have the perspective of the Phantom 4 Pro, and it's going to turn to look at the Mavic 2 Pro. So this is just a setup for where you're going to see both aircraft's perspectives. The continuing shots will be what both of them see as I fly them through similar situations, and it's up to you to compare them visually and see what you like or dislike about both aircraft. So the first thing I want to point out though as we switch to the dual shot is that I'm having to crop and pan and zoom in on the two drones footage to get them both centered in shot. So you'll get to see how the image looks when blown up, as you can see now with both aircraft. I just want to point out here what's interesting is the amount of bokeh on the Mavic compared to the Phantom 4 Pro. These cameras are both currently on default settings, but the Mavic has a lot more blur coming into the foreground than the Phantom 4 Pro, which seems to have an infinite focus, focusing on everything close up and far away. Now, different people will prefer one or the other because some people like their cinematic shots, but it's just an interesting thing to point out that with the Mavic it does it automatically out of the box, whereas with the Phantom 4 Pro it's something you have to manually set up. And I guess that's something to do with the Hasselblad camera, that they just have that set to be more prevalent. So we're now going to fly the aircraft up and just have a look at the surroundings, like the leaves and the bricks on the background. Notice how both are very crisp. However, I would say that the leaves are just that little bit crisper than that of the bricks from the Mavic's perspective. And I think that might be due to the fact that the Phantom 4 Pro does have a slightly higher resolution image sensor than the Mavic 2 Pro at true 4K versus the modern multimedia 4K that we know of that's not actually 4K. But anyway, there we have it, the two aircraft up in the sky. Notice the colouring from the background, how the Mavic 2 has a slightly more vivid colouring on default settings than the Phantom 4 Pro. These are things you can easily fix in the settings whilst flying the aircraft, but also things you can fix in post. So here we have the Phantom 4 Pro orbiting around the Mavic 2. This shot is again very much blown up and zoomed in and stabilized, which is why it looks a bit crappy resolution wise. Right, so both aircraft are currently in stabilized. I'll switch the Pro over to Sports. Okay, so, and now the Mavic. Okay, so now they're both in sports mode. Let's see how they do this time around. Oh, whoopsie. Missed one. Yeah, I mean, even on their own, the Mavic is clearly not as fast. Anyway, here we go. Attempt number 2.
Yeah, the Pro is a lot faster. And I'll bring the Pro down. Here it goes, rocketing down.
Yeah, it was the speed, hey, the speed. And I'll bring it down to land. And now for the Mavic. Yep, definitely not as fast.
So here we have the actual heavy detailed content of the video. I'm going to be comparing both aircraft in D-Log and in colorized settings. So right now we have the aircraft orbiting the hedge here, and I have to say that from a flying perspective it was a lot easier to fly the Mavic 2 Pro than it was to fly the Phantom 4 Pro in a proximity situation. And I think this is down to the fact that the Phantom 4 Pro is tuned for high-speed settings where the optical sensors need to react at quite a distance, whereas the Mavic is tuned more for proximity flying, which can be seen by the fact that when both are in stabilized vision mode, the Phantom 4 does still fly faster than the Mavic in quite a few situations. And pros and cons to both, but quite frankly, flying the Mavic is a lot nicer when it comes to getting cinematic smooth shots than flying the Phantom 4 Pro, at least in proximity settings, because the Phantom 4 Pro just cannot be controlled in proximity to stuff. It has to be put into sports mode, otherwise it's not a happy bunny. So we're now going to switch to some still shots from both aircraft. I should point out that the Mavic doesn't support D-Log still shot. So here we have the Mavic 2 going from D-Log to colorized. Everything looks good, the shadows look excellent, all the detail is there. Same again with the Phantom 4 Pro, all the shadows contain a lot of detail, there isn't noise, it all looks quite nice. So here we have the Phantom 4 Pro with a still shot, and again, everything looks good in D-Log. I mean, it could be colorized, that would make it nicer, but hey. And then we have the Mavic 2 Pro, again in D-Log M. Notice how everything has a little bit more color just because of the different kind of D-Log that's being used, but everything looks decent. The real thing now is the side-by-side shot. This is where things are going to look very different. And that is because with the Mavic 2, having that slightly lower resolution sensor, I think is just noticeable when you blow up the image. So on the left here, notice how with the Mavic 2, the petals are all a little bit blurry compared with the Phantom 4 Pro, where it's extremely crisp, extremely high detail. Anyway, we're now switching over to flying both aircraft on the same flight path at the same time, and we're going to be phasing through color and through back to D-Log. One thing I want to point out here is look at the field of view difference. How much is in shot with the Phantom 4 Pro on the bottom video versus how much is in shot with the Mavic 2 Pro on the top. The Phantom 4 Pro not only has a higher resolution sensor, but it has a higher field of view, so you get more into the shot at the same proximity as the Mavic. And those are not terrible problems, you know, you can always just fly a bit further back. But you know, depending on what you need the aircraft for, you might find it annoying that you have to fly further back to achieve the same shot, thus reducing the quality of the thing in shot as you have to look at it from further away. Anyway, as we fly up, we're now going to spin the aircraft around, and notice how there's no motion blur, no lagging from either aircraft's video. Both have very excellent data rates that don't mean any kind of blurring occurs. I do think that the Phantom 4 Pro wins out on image quality, but it has to be said, considering how quiet the Mavic 2 is, it wins out on overall practicality and nicety to fly, because it's so much easier to fly and it's quieter, like a lot quieter. And on top of that, it's very compact in transport when compared to the Phantom 4 Pro. Now, the compactness isn't huge, but it's enough to make a pretty big difference if you're going on a hike or any kind of long journey. So we're now going to compare the Mavic 2 Pro to the Spark. So I hope you enjoy the show reel, and remember to check out the links below for discounts on your DJI purchases. You have to use the links if you want the discounts. If you go straight to the website, you don't get the discounts. Thank you for watching and have a good day.
Invincible.